Hi everyone, Ryan here from Fight Game Analysis, and today we are going to be talking about the upcoming fight between Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler. If you've been enjoying the content, please go ahead and click on the like button and also subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate your support. Alright, so UFC 262, major fight coming up for the vacant lightweight title between Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler. Now, gotta be honest, I still wish Khabib was fighting. And without Khabib being the champ, I wish Dustin Poirier was fighting for the belt, but I totally understand why he's instead opted to go for the trilogy, fight Conor McGregor in July. Okay, that's probably a way bigger money fight than he would be getting for the belt. I'm sure he feels super confident going into that fight after having smoking McGregor in the last one. And let's be honest, if he got offered the title shot, which he did and he turned it down, he goes out there, he fights McGregor, wins that fight. I would think it's almost absolutely guaranteed that he would be the first in line for the shot at the new champ, right? Whoever wins this fight between Chandler and Oliveira for their first defense, it's going to be against Poirier, which puts him in line to fight for the belt anyway. So I think it's a great decision on his part, and that gives us a great matchup here between Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler, both men very deserving of the shot. So let's take a look at Charles Oliveira, right? We'll start out with him now. Charles Oliveira is a character, man. The dude is still young, but we've been watching him fight forever. He's been in the UFC for a super long time. Career has already had the ups and downs, right? I think about all the way back to like 2014, maybe 2013. Back he looked awesome. The dude's out there, he's like a boa constrictor. Just gets on his opponents, just gets slowly works his way up on, applies pressure, and eventually goes in there and gets the submission. Particularly looks really good with his chokes. But then all of a sudden something changed a little bit. I don't know exactly what it was. But he went out there and he started missing weight a few times, didn't look good in fights, lost to Pettis, Lamas, got KO'd by Paul Felder, and I kind of thought his career was over at that point. Figured that's all she wrote. He's pretty much done. Needless to say, I couldn't have been more wrong, right? We look at him today, he's fighting for the belt, but he makes this comeback, man, and right now he's in the middle of this 8-fight win streak. And he is just on fire. He's looked better in every facet. He's maintained that just top-notch, vicious submission game that he's always had. But he's got some really good Muay Thai on the other end, right? He's got some really good stand-up that we didn't see earlier in his career. Now you look at him against David Timur, against Nick Lenz, he worked some really good right hands. Against Jared Gordon, he showed a really good counter right hand. I mean, right over the top of Jared Gordon's jab. That was the beginning of the end for him. You know, he looks really good with his striking in a lot of spots. Now, that being said, he's not perfect. Few of the things that stand out to me right out the gate with his striking is he's flat-footed. Okay, you look at his fight against Kevin Lee, you look at his fight against Tony Ferguson. Looked really good, won both fights. But he still got caught with a lot of shots in both those fights. And it's because he's flat-footed. He stands in front of his opponents. Doesn't have much in the way of head movement. Great offense, looks good with his punches, works in some good crisp shots, works in kicks well on occasion and stuff. Aggressive, likes to come forward. All that's good stuff. But he doesn't really focus too much on the defense, which is why he was there to get caught with those shots. Just turns out that he was tougher. He landed more shots. He had more power. He was able to put things together more. So he was able to win those fights. But let's not be mistaken. As good as his striking is, look, there's flaws in it. He's good in the clinch. You know, he's big. He's long for the division. So he's got a lot of things going for him. Looks really good. Flip that around on the other side of the octagon. Standing across from him is going to be Michael Chandler. Now, as far as the UFC is concerned, we've only got the one fight to look at. Dan Hooker looked amazing in that fight. Goes out there, gets the early first-round knockout. Prior to that, he was over in Bellator competing for a long time. The thing about it is Bellator is a top-notch organization, but if you just ask me off the top of my head without looking at anything else, I just look at a fighter who's been in the UFC, I look at a fighter who's been in Bellator. The guy who's been in the UFC has a much higher chance, there's a much higher chance that he's fought a higher level of competition. Okay? Now that's not to say that Bellator doesn't have some really good fighters. That's not to say that some guys coming out of Bellator just can't be the champ over here and just be on fire. But just generally speaking, that's going to be one of the first things that I think about. With that being said, let's talk specifically about Michael Chandler. You look at him, before he came into MMA, he was a college wrestler, just a collegiate D1 standout. Went out there, earned NCAA honors, earned All-American honors in his senior year, over 100 wins. Like, let's be perfectly honest with each other. That's the equivalent of a black belt in wrestling. Probably a high-level black belt. If you want to look at like jiu-jitsu guys, you want to look at traditional martial arts, what somebody like Michael Chandler has done in wrestling, particularly college wrestling, which outside of Olympic wrestling is as beastie as it gets, right? So you look at his college wrestling career, That's the equivalent. All those wins, all those honors, particularly All-American in his senior year, that's the equivalent of a black belt in wrestling. So he comes into MMA, he's got that. Now, since he's been in MMA, he's also really worked on his striking. Now, you look at his striking, there's nothing really exotic about him. Okay, there's nothing really all that special. But the thing is, he's super explosive, right? Like, he's just a good athlete. You can particularly tell that from his wrestling days. He comes in here, he knows how, he turns around, he understands how to utilize his athleticism and his striking, and he's really explosive. He covers distance really well. He understands distance. He's down there, he's training at Sanford MMA, he's training with Henry Hooft. Like, he's gotten good at his striking. Even though it's not exotic, even though he doesn't have a bunch of different things that he throws at you, doesn't have a wide variety of kicks or anything like that, what he does well. And he's explosive. He understands distance well. He understands how to cover that distance well. He's got really good power in both hands. He knows how to go to the body well, right? He goes there with the jab. He goes there with the right hand. Knows how to go to the body and then come upstairs like we saw with the left hook against Dan Hooker. All it takes is one shot. He's out of there. I mean, he's demonstrated power against every single person that he's fought. Benson Henderson, Primus, all these fights that we've seen, even against Pitbull, all these fights that we've seen with him recently, he's got power in both hands. He comes out there, he hits you, he can hurt you, he can put you away. Once he gets you hurt, he's a finisher. Knows how to jump on top of guys. Really, really good ground and pound. Obviously, that goes back to his wrestling days, right? He understands top position, pressure. He understands all that really well. So if he gets somebody down, he knows how to hold him down. He knows how to generate power in that ground and pound. He can keep you down there for whatever, the rest of the round. Gets you down with 3 minutes left, gets you down with 4 minutes left. He can stay on top of you and he can put some damage on you. One of the other things, he's really strong. He doesn't need a lot of space to generate power in his shots. All that being said, let's be honest with each other. It's not like he would go out there and win a jiu-jitsu match against Oliveira. So as good as his takedowns are, as good as he is in top position, he doesn't want to be on his back against a man like Oliveira. That's going to put him at a huge disadvantage. Even though I'm sure he trains it all the time, even though I'm sure he knows what he's doing, my guess is he'll live the rest of his life and never be as good in jiu-jitsu as Charles Oliveira is. So the question is, what's it going to look like when these two step in the octagon against each other on Saturday night? Now it's interesting. It's interesting, right? We start out, obviously this fight is going to start standing up. 100% of fights start out on the feet. And both of these men bring an interesting striking game to the table. They both want to move forward. They both want to be aggressive. They both like to get off shots. They both like to get out there and make it happen. They both like to throw their hands. But I'm giving the edge to Michael Chandler, and I'll tell you why. Number one, I feel like he's a little bit lighter on his feet, moves around a little bit better. I feel like he is more explosive. So when he wants to cover the distance, when he wants to close the gap and land his shots, he's going to be able to do it quicker. When he wants to back up, he's going to be able to do that quicker. Not that either of these men are all that interested in backing up. And he's for sure got more power. He's got power in both of his hands. Charles Oliveira is not all that hard to hit. Like I mentioned just a minute ago, he doesn't use the distance well. He doesn't move his head. He doesn't move his feet a lot. Doesn't tuck his chin behind his shoulder or anything like that. Doesn't even really put his hands up all that well. Not exactly what I would call defensively responsible. And with a guy like Michael Chandler, man, he's only got to connect one time and he can really hurt you. Knows how to generate a lot of power in small spaces, throws combinations, goes to the body well. And let's be perfectly honest, Charles Oliveira has been hurt to the body before. That's been an issue of his. Not recently, but it's in his past. As far as the striking is concerned, I'm going to give the edge to Chandler there. Obviously, in the wrestling department, should somebody decide to go for takedowns, I'm giving it to Chandler all day. If he wants to take Charles Oliveira down, my guess is he can. Charles Oliveira wants to take him down. He's probably going to need to hurt him on the feet first before he can. Chandler's just too good of a wrestler. If it goes to the ground, Charles Oliveira is more than competent in any position, incredibly dangerous off his back, always a submission threat, can go for leg locks, can get your neck, can get triangles, can transition, get reverses, sweep from the ground and turn around and get on top and then get your back and get stuff. Super dangerous. However, make no mistake about it, if Michael Chandler gets him down and gets in top position, he's going to land some ground and pound. He's going to do some damage. That's not going to be a problem for him. Probably could keep him down there for a while. It's one of the things about Charles Oliveira, I think, because he's so confident in his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that sometimes he'll accept being on his back a little bit, hoping to catch a position. Should that position reverse and Michael Chandler is on his back and Charles Oliveira is on top, he's going to be in a world of hurt. That is most likely the number one position that he wants to avoid at all costs, being on his back with Charles Oliveira on top of it. But I don't think that's going to happen. The only way that would happen is if he was already hurt on his feet. And if he's hurt on his feet, I mean, he's already in trouble anyways. And then the one wild card in this fight that I also want to throw in is that Charles Oliveira has been known to slow down in fights. He's been known to not demonstrate good cardio. He's been known to come out fast, come out on fire. You withstand that storm, and you're in a much better position as the fight goes on. And we've seen Michael Chandler go 5 rounds a couple times, so I think he's going to be all right there. I think he's going to be fine. Coming from that wrestling background particularly, I mean, those guys train like absolute savages. I'm sure his cardio is going to be, I have confidence that his cardio will be good. I definitely think it'll be better than Charles Oliveira. So all that being said, all that being considered, I'm going with Michael Chandler in this fight. And I really like the fact that he's a slight underdog at this point, plus 110. So I do think there's some value in that bet. Now, be particularly careful. You want to jump on this one. You want to place a bet on it. I mean, Charles Oliveira is no slouch. He's got multiple ways to win this fight. I wouldn't be surprised for 1 second if he came away with the victory. But I am going to go with Michael Chandler. And like I said, I just like the fact that he's the underdog, right? Between the power that he brings, between the fact that he can go to the body and go upstairs, his wrestling, his ground and pound. Should this fight go late and it goes to the scorecards, I'm really confident that he's going to walk away and win rounds 4 and 5 because of his cardio and the way Oliveira slows down. So there's just a lot of things that I like about Michael Chandler going into this fight. As dangerous as Charles Oliveira is, and he is super dangerous, I think Michael Chandler is going to be able to come away with the victory. So he will be the new king at 155. And then I think later on in the year, who knows, November, December, should Poirier come out with any cuts and come away with the victory, I think he'll be challenging for the belt. Let me know what you guys think. Is this going to be a win for Charles Oliveira? Or is Michael Chandler going to be able to pull it out, come over and have won the belt in Bellator, and in his second fight, snatch up the UFC belt at 155 pounds? Let me know what you guys think.